welcome in. Happy Saturday to you now here. What is this, the 16th of March? I cannot believe it. Plenty going on across the sports betting landscape this weekend. It's a big week coming up. Of course, Selection Sunday tomorrow as teams around the country in college hoops figure out whether or not a committee thinks that they are good enough in order to play for a national championship. But they can certainly help themselves by winning a game here today or two, and we've got plenty on the card in college hoops. We've got plenty in the NBA to go over, and oh yeah, this week, welcome back Major League Baseball here, and nobody better than our good friend Tokyo Brandon. He'll be joining us here to talk a little MLB and the futures market. You better hurry up on some of these teams, by the way. If you're planning on dabbling in the MLB futures market, you better hurry up because it is ever-changing, and there are still a couple of big names that could be plucked at any particular time. But a lot of college basketball here today, as usual, and who better to hang out with than Mark Zinno here, continuing to crush it in college hoops. Man, Zin, happy Saturday. The madness is fully upon us here in the middle of March. Kind of hard to believe, but this is the point we are at, my man.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of the best weeks of the year leading up to the tournament. I think this weekend and next weekend are probably the two best weekends of betting in college basketball. So we're on quite the run, with the exception of the University of Virginia and the things that I want to say about their men's basketball team, which ended an 8-0 run for us. But we are 8-1 in our last 9 plays. Been super hot, pushing 70% since the beginning of this month. It's been a really good run in college hoops. So we just hope to keep it running today.
Yeah, well, there's no reason not to here, Zin. So let's get it going here if we can. We'll start with a game that you have picked up here. And let's tell me, you got a few games. You got a bunch going on up at WagerTalk.com. We know about that. But break it down for us here when it comes to the SEC and Auburn, who absolutely destroyed them yesterday, South Carolina. Now they're going to take on Mississippi State, who quite honestly destroyed Tennessee, the number 1 seed here. So what are we doing here with these two teams?
Look, you know me, I cut games in half for specific reasons. And the reason I'm going to take Auburn and lay the 4 in the first half here is because, look, I think Mississippi State is in a fade spot, right? Coming off that huge win of Tennessee and knocking them off. But Mississippi State also kind of played out of their minds yesterday. Like, they're not as good, particularly offensively, as what they showed. This is a team that shoots 45% on the year from the field. They shot 55% yesterday against Tennessee. So not only did they get a great defensive effort, but they also got a great offensive effort. So I think we get a little bit of regression here. Now, the other reason I don't want to lay the 8 with Auburn is because when it comes to Auburn beating South Carolina, I thought Auburn was the right side yesterday. They laid 6.5, but we all kind of know South Carolina as a little fugazi. Like, they're not, as much as they were covered darlings all year long, that wasn't a team that I really liked to back. And I actually have Mississippi State power rated higher than I do South Carolina. So the fact that this number is bigger scares me a little bit when it comes to covering it for the full game. If Mississippi State is going to put forth the same defensive effort and a similar offensive effort, it doesn't have to be 55%, even if they're in the high 40s, 47, 48, normally above where they were. If they can do that, they're going to do it early. Right? This is a Mississippi State team that doesn't have an offense that is built to play catch-up. That's just not who they are. So if Auburn builds a lead early, yeah, I think they'll hold on and end up walking away with possibly a cover here, but maybe a backdoor Mississippi State could sneak it in. But, you know, it's that old adage I tell everybody all the time. If they ain't covering early, they ain't covering late. If Mississippi State isn't within a field goal here at the end of the half, Auburn can open up the doors and steamroll them regardless. I mean, yes, the game script is there that it could be a 2-point game and a half, and Auburn takes over in the second half and runs away with this thing. But I just feel like Auburn is the much better team here. They are better on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. And we saw this yesterday against South Carolina. Yeah, for the first 3-5 minutes, it got close. And guess what? You could just see Bruce Pearl and Auburn kick it into another gear. They opened it up, and they never looked back, and I think that's the same thing that happens. Mississippi State's good, but I don't think they're at the level of Auburn. Auburn may be the best team in the SEC, and I think they're on a mission here to win this thing and possibly snake a number 1 seed away from somebody in the NCAA tournament. So I'll lay the floor with first half.
In the Early, though. So you're going to go that early there. It's interesting, too, because this will be now what? The third game, I think, in 3 days for A&M. And you got to think, and that's the big question, right? Is the game that they won yesterday against Tennessee, are they still in a bubble, do you think? Is this game a must-win situation here, or did they do enough, do you think, down the stretch and beating Tennessee in order to be able to get in?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that Tennessee win is going to be a huge feather in their cap when it comes to
Huge.
committee. I mean, that's a quad one win, right? Like, that's what you absolutely need when it comes to doing it. As Mississippi State, I think they're in. I think their resume says that they're in. You could argue that their 8-10 conference record is going to scare somebody away.
Right.
And I think they did enough to put themselves maybe in that last four conversation at this point in time. If they win this game, yeah, they're probably going to secure this spot to go into the tournament. But again, you talked about it. Now we're getting on the third game in 3 days for Mississippi State, and the emotion of just dismantling Tennessee may be too much for them to turn around and do it again the next day, especially with the first game coming out, right? The early game coming out. Their game yesterday tipped off mid-afternoon, so not a lot of rest for these kids to go back at it. Auburn's the fresher team. I just think they're flat out better. And again, if Auburn is stuck in a dogfight, pun intended, I guess here, from the opening, then Auburn may be in danger of losing this game outright. The only way they're going to cover that 8 is if they open it up early and then just start to distance themselves. And Mississippi State kind of says, okay, they're better than we are. Hopefully the Tennessee win is going to be enough for us to get here, to get to the semifinals of the SEC tournament. So I don't know that Auburn, if they have designs on winning this thing, can afford to sit there and punch back and forth with the Bulldogs for a full 40 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, if Auburn shows up the way they did against that kind of focused mentality, the way they did against South Carolina, it really won't make a difference what Mississippi State has to do here. I think we've gotten, by the way, welcome those of you joining us here on a Saturday across multiple platforms here today. It is Last Call here on WagerTalk TV, and it's all about you. Any of these last-minute questions you have today, why we call it Last Call. If you have any questions about any of the coming, whether it be college hoops or NBA, we're going to talk a little Major League Baseball since that starts this week coming up. Of course, a lot of basketball coming your way here. So if you have questions and you're joining us on YouTube Shorts, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, X, drop those questions in there. Let's get to as many as we can as the opening tip on a couple of games, I believe, just took place. A couple 11 a.m. Eastern time games already underway, but we got a whole bunch coming up in the 1 o'clock time frame, and we've got some NBA games as well. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Make sure you give us that thumbs up. We certainly appreciate it. As Mark Zinno, we've got some questions rolling in here, and I think we got one right on, that's it. Shogun Mike there wants to know about A&M. Keep it rolling. Cashed Florida over 85.5 team total yesterday. That was no kidding. That game, I would not want to sweat out an under in that. I couldn't imagine holding an under a ticket in that game last night there. Yes, Bama is absolutely atrocious, but let's face it, the winner of that A&M Florida game probably going to be the favorite. Whoever wins, regardless of this game here today between Auburn and Mississippi State. Is that fair?
No, I think Auburn's the favorite. Auburn, if Auburn gets through, I think I would make Auburn a 4 or 5 point favorite against A&M and probably closer to 6 against Florida, just because Florida's defense is not good. I think A&M defensively probably poses a little bit of a bigger challenge for Auburn than Florida does. But yeah, Auburn to me has been the clear best team in this conference all year long. I know we get enamored with the offense from Alabama and everything else, and even Ken Palm to a certain extent had maybe Tennessee and Alabama ranked above Auburn at certain points. But Auburn is probably one of the more complete teams in basketball. And I tell you guys this too now, when it comes to futures, Auburn is a team that I eyed up for a national championship future for a while now. You're getting 25-1 in that range. So I would look to them for a national championship future. But to Shogun Mike's question, can A&M keep it rolling today? I would look at this game this way. When I would tell you kind of how the tempo is going to unfold. When I look at that number and I see the total at 151, and I'm just curious what the first half total is, because this is the way my mind. So at 71, so you're basically paying a 4-point premium. Like, I would say take the first half under if you believe in A&M, because they will tell you if they can dictate the pace by how many points are scored in the first half, right? And typically more points are scored. You follow my logic here, Joe? Like, if A&M is going to end up covering this number, it's because they keep the scoring down early. If Florida runs out and scores 40-plus in the first half on their own, guess what? A&M's offense, I don't trust to play catch-up, right? If they can